I'm Anil Kumar. Here are a few things which are very important to understand before we get into the new unit on advanced functions. What we need to know is how to graph parabolas. So I'll take a few examples and then sketch just to remind you what you had learned earlier. We'll begin with the very basic parent function, which is y equals to x squared, right? So let's begin with parabola y equals to x squared. So x squared, we could always sketch kind of a graph like this. Let me sketch one here. To sketch this function, you could take up table of values, right? You could take up table of values, write down x and y values. Let me write down x and y values. So if 5 critical values to take are -2, -1, 0, 1 and 2. Square of -2 is 4. Square of 1 is 1, 0, 1 and 4. So plotting these points, you could get your parabola, right? So that is one way of doing it. The other way to do the same thing is to follow steps. Now, this method of sketching with steps is kind of very important. In any parabola, the second difference is constant. But what is the first difference? If you calculate the first difference, you'll find that the first difference is kind of 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. Let me show you. If I write 3 here, then this becomes 9. 4 will give me 16, right? We are checking these steps from the vertex. Now, vertex is at origin here, so we are checking these steps from here. So find the difference. What is the first difference? Okay, let's calculate. So here, 1 minus 0 is 1, 4 minus 1 is 3, 9 minus 4 is 5, 16 minus 9 is 7, and so on. So do you see these steps? So, and then this part is symmetric. So we're talking about the right side of y, right? And we know this is axis of symmetry. So here, this is symmetry, right? Axis of symmetry is 0. So we know here that the origin is the vertex. Let me call this as vertex is 0, 0, and axis of symmetry is at y, x equals to y, this point, right? So axis of symmetry is x equals to 0, right? So this point, x equals to 0, is the axis of symmetry. So all these points on a parabola are symmetric, correct, along its axis. Okay, but this is the steps we're talking about. So these are the steps. So go to the vertex, we know, and then when we say 1, that means if you move 1 unit to here, you go 1 up. Next time if you move 1 unit, in that case, you have to go 3 up, right? So if I go 1, 2, 3 to reach the next step, and then when I do 1 unit, you have to go 5 up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you get the next point. And here on this other side, these are the mirror images, correct? So you quickly sketch a parabola using steps, correct? Now let me write down a general equation, and then we'll further explore how to graph parabolas. We have learned quite a bit here. So let us say, let me consider equation as f of x, or you could write y equals to, okay. Let's say 2 times x minus 3 whole square. Let us say we write this as -4. Okay, so I'm using different numbers so that when I plot them, you kind of understand what number stands for what. Now 2 is the multiplies the vertical stretch by a factor of 2. So the steps will stretch. So these numbers will get multiplied by 2, right? So in this particular case, the steps which we are going to have will be twice 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. As far as the vertex is concerned, let me write v as the vertex, will be at 3 minus 4. So we can go to 3 minus 4. So in this case, we are saying this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, right? Minus 4 means 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say this is minus 4 for us. So that becomes the vertex, okay? And also, let us understand, this is our axis of symmetry also, correct? So this is kind of axis of symmetry. So it is x equals to 3 is the axis of symmetry, okay? Now, let me take up a bright pen so that we can clearly overwrite all this. So steps are twice 1357. So if I use 1 unit to the right, I have to go 2 up. So 1, 2. So this is my next point. Do you see that? Next step is 6 up. So next step will be 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say this is 6 up. So joining these points, we get this side of the parabola. Definitely, it looks stretched. And then we can have symmetrical points here, because that's the axis of symmetry. And then joining them, kind of, right? So we get our parabola. So this parabola represents the equation we're talking about. You get an idea, right? So from the vertex and steps, we can always get the graph of a parabola, right? That's kind of important to understand. And this is what we are going to use most of the time. At times, we may have some reflections. So let me take another equation. Let's say y equals to, let's have it on this side, minus, and let's say half. We'll horizontally, we'll kind of compress it this time. And equation may be x, we want to go to that side. So x plus 3, let's say, whole square. And let's start from somewhere here. So we'll do plus 4 this time. Okay. If we have this kind of an equation, what is the vertex? Can you help me? Vertex is at minus 3 and plus 4. And what are the steps? Steps will be minus half of 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. Is it okay? So we'll now sketch with this given data. Vertex is minus 3, 4. That means 1, 2, 3. Minus 3. 4 is kind of here. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's this be 4 for us. So we got the vertex right there. Steps are minus. Minus means it opens downwards, right? So this parabola is opens downwards, right? So it opens down. And what else we have? It is vertically compressed. Okay, it is vertically compressed by a factor of half. Is it okay? So it is opening downwards. Vertex is at minus 3, 4. So if you move one step to the right, let me use another color. One step to the right, you don't come 1 unit, but you go half unit down. So one step to the left, half unit. So you get this point. Next time, one step when you go to the right, you don't go 3 units down, but you go half of 3, which is 1.5. So it's kind of like this here, right? So kind of like this. So you can sketch this graph like this, okay? And well, don't worry about those points. So what do you really notice here? That this half is kind of compressed, right? So it becomes wider. So this graph which you have here is kind of wide, right? And the early graph is narrow. Since it is getting stretched, correct? Anyway, that gives you good review of what you have already learned for sketching parabolas. And I hope this information will help you to sketch parabolas and move forward with this new unit on functions. I'm Anil Kumar. You can always share and subscribe my videos. Thank you and all the best.